Sleggar Law is one of the most important characters in Mobile Suit Gundam, the original Mobile Suit Gundam, because he is one of the main factors that makes it real mecha and forces the idea to the absolute undeniable front. Let's talk about Sleggar Law for a second, shall we? I mean, honestly, this is one of those characters that when he comes onto the ship, by this point, Gundam had entered the phase of being a little formula. It was starting to see Monster of the Week kind of situations, where they would introduce a new kind of mobile suit, and then the Gundam would go out and fight that mobile suit, and then they would defeat that mobile suit, and it was slowly but surely losing what it had set up before. At the beginning, they were very careful about creating something that was real mecha. It had ammo, it ran out, it got damaged, it had to be maintenanced. The characters sometimes didn't know how to use certain weapons, they were at disadvantages. Characters didn't just automatically know how to use something. This thing wasn't just a Zord or something of that nature. It wasn't a super robot. It didn't bind with you or read your brainwaves or copy your kung fu or allow you to somehow mend with it on the very level of the soul. It wasn't this kind of thing. It was real mecha. It was a war drama, and it was told very well. But the times catch up with us. And this was no exception for Gundam. Gundam had to make sales. It had to be interesting on TV. It had to push the idea of what it was trying to sell, and if people weren't catching on to that, then it had to fall back on certain gimmicks. There was no way around this. But just as Gundam really entered the Monster of the Week phase, and we started seeing this more and more and more, where every other week they would stop off at a dock, or they would get attacked by some new threat that had a new mobile suit that they hadn't seen, and then they would have to find a way around that new mobile suit. They introduce Sleggar Law. Sleggar changes almost everything, reverting it right back to where they originally started. They wanted this show to be different. They wanted it to be this real mecha idea, to set up a different standard than the super robots that existed. So, Sleggar comes in. He is easily different than the other characters. He's older. He's crude. He doesn't give a crap about what you think. He will straight tell you what's going on, and he certainly won't be pushed around or undermined by children, even children that have rank on him. He is not worried in the least when Bright Noah starts giving orders, and he sees those orders differently. And so he says, "It's not the way I see it. I think that we should probably load up the barrel guns." And Bright is irritated by this. But Bright is different from Sleggar. Bright doesn't enjoy full confrontation, but he's not willing to be undermined either. When Bright makes the decision, when he puts his foot down, Sleggar will follow command. But Sleggar is not afraid to say, "I see it this way." That's important. It's important because it sets Sleggar apart from a lot of the other yes sirs and yes ma'ams that are going around the bridge. Most people will not lead to that kind of confrontation. Or they'll do what they're told and they'll complain about it, such as Kai. Kai is famous for being the guy that'll do what he's told and then bitch about it the entire time. Amuro had a lot of growing up to do. And it's not his fault either. But in the situation that they were in, Bright didn't have time for Amuro to grow up. He didn't have time for Amuro to mature. Amuro knew how to pilot the Gundam, and if Bright could have done it, Bright would have done it. Bright didn't know how to do it. And he didn't have time to train himself. And he didn't have time to train somebody else either. He was stuck in a situation. And this boy knew how to do it and was damn good at it. And he had to utilize the abilities that he had. He had to utilize the manpower and the skills that were at his disposal. Amuro was one of them. And so, Bright made a couple decisions. Bright made a couple of 19-year-old decisions. He slapped Amuro right in the face, told him to grow up. Stop this. When you put a teenager and another teenager in a room and they disagree and they start to develop a dislike for each other, they're not adults. Even adults will sometimes come to blows, but teenagers, way faster on the come to blows part. And Bright didn't have time to put up with bullshit. He didn't. Slap Amuro. But see, Sleggar was already tested. He was already combat tested. He was already grown up. He was already mature. It was a different situation. You had to converse with Sleggar. You had to tell him, this is what I think. This is why I think. These are my orders. A slap may have got Amuro in that Gundam. It would not have got Sleggar in that Gundam. And Sleggar would not pilot the Gundam regardless. Now, Sleggar was no joke, by the way. In terms of mobile suits, Sleggar knew how to pilot a mobile suit, and he was damn good at it. See, Sleggar had proven himself in mobile suit efficiency, in the pilot operation of mobile suit, strongly enough that he has a custom gym. Okay? That says a lot. It says a lot because we know by watching the series and by watching people that move up in command rank that they don't usually waste time on you, giving you custom color schemes, or certainly they won't put your emblem on your gym if you're just some guy. But Sleggar was not some guy. He was proven in combat and knew the weapons at his disposal and knew them well and was a mobile suit pilot and was damn good at it. But when the gyms were damaged, now I'm pulling from two different sources here. I'm pulling from both the anime and I'm pulling from the new, what I consider rewritten, more up-to-date, makes more sense canon Gundam Origins manga. It does. It takes almost everything that was just difficult to explain or difficult to look past and really updates it and makes it make a lot more sense. And so you will hear me from time to time reference that stuff if we talk about Gundam. So look, guys. Sleggar, after the gym is damaged, makes a decision. They could repair it. They could pull parts of other units and things like that, or they could just give him something else, because honestly, he would be more skilled in, say, a gun cannon than Kai. Sleggar doesn't do that. Sleggar brings back the idea of real mecha in one small move. It's a move that nobody tends to think about, but it's unbelievably important. He pilots a core fighter, and he does it damn well. And why is this important? Because when we look at super mecha is often the kind of thing where the giant robots, the things that they're trying to sell, the things that they want to be important, the things that they want to make into toys, those are the things that save the day. Those are the things that whoop ass. But let us be honest here. Sleggar could take down more mobile suits in a core fighter than most of the other people on White Base could do in the most sophisticated mobile suits. And there's a reason for that. Sleggar knew combat, and he knew it well, and he knew weapons, and he knew the offensive property of what he had chosen to use, and he was damn good in a core fighter. And that changes a major aspect of Gundam. and turns it back into real mecha. See, they'd been slowly leaving real mecha, as I had already spoken about with this Monster of the Week stuff. But Sleggar brings it back by proving the same Zakus and the same goofs and the same Zigoks and things of that nature, or the Doms that were giving the other pilots trouble. Then they were in mobile suits. They were in the super mecha. He just took out a jet and wiped them. And up until that point, it had become ridiculously obvious that things like tanks and jets were never going to take down the Gundam. They simply were not a threat in any way whatsoever because the show had slowly veered away from the beginnings of real mecha and started to steer into the super robot crap. Now, Sleggar brings it back by making one major decision, moving to the core fighter and proving that you don't have to be in one of these giant robots, you have to understand the weapons at your disposal. He understood a weapon, and it was a good weapon, and it was a powerful weapon, and he proved that the core fighter was a viable weapon. It wasn't just a sidekick on the battlefield. And Sleggar also adds another moment of realness in it being a war tragedy story. Sleggar dies, and it is extremely important. It is important to add this kind of character because, look, in the situation that they're in, they don't get to pick their friends. Sleggar ended up with them. And yes, he could be crude and he could be brash. He could be brass, and he could be difficult to deal with. But for those that took the time to get to know him, he was just a guy like any other guy. And so he did develop friendships, even romance, while on board White Base. But then, the big Zom. Sleggar sees what's happening. He sees how bad it is. He knows where this is going. He's already gone back and prepared himself and restocked the core fighter to go back out to fight more mobile suits when the Zom shows up. And he realizes very quickly that they're not going to win this. The Gundam can't get in on it. Amuro, for all of his greatness, for all of his ace pilot skill, and for all of his new type ability, cannot beat the defenses of the big Zom. But Sleggar, he can. The only problem is that in order to do so, he makes a very, very rash decision. And that decision piles him right into the Zom, killing him. He does not survive the impact, and he knew he wouldn't. He knew when he made the decision. And it's that moment that allows Amuro to get in and take out the Zom. Without Sleggar, without that moment, they do not defeat the big Zom. Without Sleggar, without those moments, we do not reverse Gundam back to what it originally was, real mecha. Without Sleggar, we do not build the foundation for what will become Mobile Suit Gundam in the future. Sleggar brings it back to basics. He changes where we were going and takes it right back to where it started. He is an extremely important character that fixes Gundam and makes it real mecha and helps to drive the idea home. And from that point on, we get Gundam as it should be. Now, this isn't always true. Sometimes Gundam very much does fall into the super mecha category. In fact, watching something like Gundam Wing, it's all too obvious that these are super robots and 5 people by themselves can fight a war. Which is ridiculous. No matter how advanced your weapon is, if they're making mobile suit technology and you make a mobile suit and your mobile suit is advanced, It just, it doesn't stand in the realms of being real mecha if your one mobile suit for some reason is the most sophisticated mobile suit ever and cannot be touched by any other suit. The Gundam was bested multiple times. It was a real machine. It was important that they knew how to use it and how to take care of it, because it wasn't indestructible. It was nearly destroyed on a number of occasions before Sleggar showed up. But then, slowly but surely, Amuro became invincible. And he just started wiping the floor with everything that came his way. Sleggar reset the dynamic. So, give it up to Sleggar Law. Because without him, Gundam probably wouldn't be what it is today.
I have spoken. Take what you will from it.